Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Hinterling, and you are listening to Watch This List Unplugged. This is the Hidden Gem series, and today we are featuring my most repeated guest, Jetta, who is the Iron Cupcake on Letterboxd, as you all know and love her. She's also the only female who's ever been on my show, which we're not going to talk about right now. But Jetta, hello,
Hello.
welcome.
I'm honored and delighted as always, and I got real dressed up just for you. New
Jetta,
haircut,
she has
outfit.
bangs.
Yes.
She has bangs.
And this outfit is because you love swimming so much, as we've discussed so frequently. So, there you
Yeah,
go.
not a lot of people know this about me because they don't know me on sort of a personal level as Jetta, but I do live in Florida and I love swimming.
Mm-hmm.
So she is sort of, it's like a little bit of a mermaid outfit in a way,
Yeah,
Jetta.
yeah. Not literally a swimsuit, but close enough.
Close enough. And we're both wearing black, which was not planned.
Mm-hmm.
Not for any of you who just do audio only, you don't know, but you'll have to check it out.
The extra special surprise.
So Jetta could have picked from so many movies. So the fact that these were her two hidden gems to me is so significant because she has an endless amount of recommendations at any given point. And so to narrow it down, Jetta, actually means something. Why did you pick these two?
Well, of course, the list that I made was, 20,000 titles long, and I could not figure out how to narrow them down, so I just started thinking about the kinds of actor marathons that I love to do.
Mm,
When I just, watch someone in something, and either I'd never noticed them in a film before, or they used to be a favorite, and I kind of forgot for a while, but now all of a sudden, oh my god, I need to watch everything this person was ever in, because I just get really obsessive like that. And
yes.
these two films in particular were part of those moments where I was just so in love with that actor, so amazed by what I felt they could do on screen, their physical presence, everything. And so I thought these are perfect choices because to me they're 5-star films. And I don't even know if it's because they're really, 5-star quality, but I just have 5-star love for them. So.
It's a great way to phrase it. Well, and also, Jetta, you and I have a history with one of these because it
Mm-hmm.
was the one that you. So when I first started Watch This List, one of my questions at the end was, what do you think is the most underrated film? And in our first episode about disaster movies, Jetta had this as her answer. So we have come sort of full circle. She's like, well, obviously, you're not going to watch this unless I make you watch it, Amy.
That's right.
So she put it in her hidden gems to ensure that I saw it.
Yep, that was the plan. I had that plan since last August.
Yeah. And now here we are in June 2023, and it's finally happening. I've finally gotten on my game. I also chose, so as you guys know, if you've been listening this entire time, from the book, The Best Film You've Never Seen, I am covering one a week. And the one that I picked for Jetta and I was one that I felt only could apply to her. It wasn't one that either of us sort of were.
I'm more of a fan. A little
Yeah,
more.
we weren't like thrilled about it, but it is still worth mentioning. And I felt like since it was recommended by John Waters, that sort of also fit Jetta. Although I
Totally.
don't know, do you like John Waters?
I'm embarrassed to say I've only seen Hairspray, but I love his
Wow.
I love his commentary tracks. I love interviews I've seen,
Okay.
things he's written. I mean, I love him as a presence. I love him as a person. I don't actually know enough of his films to say I'm a fan of his work, but
Because
everything else.
Mark and Seth covered, I think, Pink Flamingos in their
Hmm.
Unwatchables series,
Yeah.
and he hated that movie.
Oh yeah, I know people. It's love it or hate it. I get
Uh
that.
huh. Yeah.
I would love it probably
You think so?
if I had to guess.
Okay, that's definitely one that I think I would hate. Just based
Mhm.
on Mark's description, I was like, "Oh my gosh, no. Like there's no way I could watch this."
Yeah, well, I know me, I know my tastes. I'm gonna guess that I would really gravitate towards something like that. But who knows? Sometimes I'm shocked. Sometimes you get a Marketa Lazarova.
Yes.
So,
Or you get a time where you think that Jetta would love something and she's like,
mhm.
and you're like, "What?"
Teen Wolf. Yeah,
Hmm.
no
This
good.
must happen to you frequently though. I feel
Oh,
like.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there are so many times when I have such high expectations and then I find that it's not that good and I'm just like, what did I do wrong? I felt like I did something wrong. It couldn't be the movie. It had to be me. Something about my brain filtered it wrong. So I don't know.
How soon into something do you know? Like, is it
Oh,
20 minutes, an hour? Do you wait? Like, how soon do you
uh,
sort of get this, like, I don't think I like this?
well, with Marketa Lazarova, I knew immediately. I knew like
Oh
2 minutes in.
man.
And
Sorry, Rob.
I was really, really hoping that, like somehow something will happen to change that. I don't know. But sometimes there are movies where I'm going along for a while and it seems okay, but then I just, there comes a point when I realize it's not going to get any better. It's just not. Nothing's
Like
going
you
to,
just
like,
fall asleep or you're just like
no,
I could like I could take it or leave it.
it's, you know, I, I have high hopes always. I start in optimistically almost all the time.
Mhm.
And there are some movies that are supposed to be horrible, but I'll still keep my expectations high because I really want to love something. But there'll just be a moment where I'm like, I can just imagine finishing the movie and being like, I can see it. I can see the moment. I can feel it.
Right.
So,
That's what I
yeah,
figured.
I don't know.
Do
But
you
it's weird. I mean, sometimes there are movies that people absolutely hate, and I love them, and I ask myself, why did that happen? I mean, what happened? What transformed in my mind that made it so amazing? Boxing
mm,
Helena.
yeah, Helena, I'm glad you said it
Yes.
correctly. Which is still going on, by the way, Jetta.
It is so entertaining. I mean, it is so ridiculous. You have to love how bizarre it is. But I get it. I get not. I know. So.
Well, Ethan just did that today, and I liked how he had quoted something from Lynch, where like herself, not David, but
Right,
Jennifer,
right.
where he was saying about the Venus, like the Venus statue,
Yeah, yeah,
and how she was like fascinated that men were drawn to it particularly, and that she's missing her arms and legs.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there is something a little bit deeper there. It's just the execution, I think.
Yeah, and also I think you have to have the ability to, or not the ability, but the desire to want to embrace something so ridiculous.
Mm.
You know that this is maybe the worst thing you've seen in forever, but it is so ridiculous. You kind of just have to love it because, like, how can you stop laughing at it? I mean,
Jetta,
oh my god.
this goes back to your OTT thing because you have
Mm-hmm.
said this many times. I think I've asked you this before, where you love very committed performances
Yes.
just on the fact that they're doing it. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not even that the movie itself is great, but you just love when people commit to something
definitely.
and go hard. Like they just go all the way and you're just like, wow.
Yeah, like it's not necessarily better acting, but it is more acting. It is the most acting you can get.
Turbulence.
Yeah, and with Boxing Helena, it's like it never stops. It just never ends. You're going to keep getting more and more and more, and it's going to be weirder and stupider. And like you want to be able to appreciate what Jennifer Lynch was going for, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you can't. I mean, it's so bad,
No.
but
Yeah.
it's so bad that it becomes incredible.
And you said her mother watched it like 12 times?
Yeah, apparently, I think it was 14. Now that is commitment. That is a
That's
mother's love.
it's a mother's love, I was going to say. That's different. That's different than just like
Yeah.
being nice about it.
But
She's
can you
like actually proud.
imagine David Lynch wanting to sit next to his daughter and watch that, and that
No.
he would be so emotional? I
I
mean, well, I
know.
can imagine him being emotional, but to feel that that was such a work of art, that it spoke to him, that he was so proud that his daughter made it. I mean, that's amazing. That is
Then
really
again, Jetta,
something.
we are talking about the director of Inland Empire.
That's true. That is really true.
So, moving on. So, the first movie that Jetta chose that we're going to talk about, because we're saving my favorite for last, since that is the one I feel like we're going to talk about the most. But this one is very good. It's called American Perfect with a K instead of a C. So, Perfekt. Directed by Paul Chart, who never did anything else, from 1997. Actually, this is something that you share with AJ, that both of you chose two movies from the 90s.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Um, but as this is a hidden gem, I'm assuming that most people have not heard of it. Set us up for this movie, Jetta, and tell us who the actor is that you're obsessed with, although I already know.
So it's this strange, wild, inexplicable sort of neo noir road trip through
Mm.
California. Um, Robert Forster, the amazing, the great, the legendary.
The sexy, dare we say.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely a babe.
Yeah.
Across all decades. He plays, oh God, I want to say a psychologist. Maybe it's a psychiatrist. Oops, I should have
I
done my
think it's
research.
criminal
Criminals. Okay.
psychologist.
He, well, I shouldn't even start with him, but of course he's foremost on my mind.
Right.
I don't want to spoil exactly what the nature is of the relationship between the characters because there's a movie that I could definitely suggest as a very obvious template for this, but then it would really spoil what's going on. But I will say, he's driving, Amanda Plummer is driving, they meet, there's some road rage. You don't understand why it's happening, you don't understand where they're going to go, but when they get to that motel, some wild and crazy things are going to happen. David Thewlis is going to show up. Chris Sarandon is going to show up.
Yes.
Paul Sorvino. Eventually, Fairuza Balk will show up wearing an excellent hat. All of these characters are going to converge in this location in the dusty desert, and it's going to be violent and confusing and strange. And you'll wonder at the end, wow, how did we get here? And it's this kind of feeling like every time I watch it, both times I've seen it, I feel like I'm half asleep. I feel like that was just a weird dream. I can't believe someone made it. Did any of it happen? And then I think, wow, that's like a 5-star movie.
It
So
reminds me.
I hope that set that up.
No, it does, and it reminds me kind of how you feel like watching Mulholland Drive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Kind of where you're like, you enjoy it, you don't know where it's going. At the end, you're like, how much of this is real? How much of it is, it has that sort of like half asleep, half awake dream state feeling, as well as very neo-noir to me.
And a feeling that you don't know exactly what some of the motives are, like, what was David Thewlis really up to?
Right.
And what was, so it's like there are all these layers where you wonder how characters may really know each other. Oh, Jeffrey Lewis, he's in it too. It's so mystifying. And it doesn't surprise me at all that it didn't get a theatrical release when it came out, because people probably looked at it and were like, what is this? Why would we want to put this in theaters? So, understandable.
Well, and how did you even see this in the first place?
Well, per my obsession with Robert Forster, because I should say actually, because this is really full circle, the movie I saw that made me want to go through his entire filmography back in January 2022 was a disaster movie. Okay. Avalanche, with Rock Hudson and Mia Farrow and Robert Forster, trapped in a ski resort.
Older, Jetta. What year was that?
78.
Okay, yeah, so that's a young Robert Forster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally ridiculous. Not believable for a second that any of these people would be in love with one another, but whatever. So I was immediately like, I have to watch everything he ever made, including rewatching things I already know. And this was among the things I saw when I looked at his filmography, because I just wanted to absorb everything I could find on the IMDb. And of course, he has 189 credits. How could I ever get through it all?
Oh, man.
I got through a lot. I think there are 63 things on the list, or 62, plus there are things that I didn't actually rate, so I put them separate in the list, but it's a lot. I went through a lot in that month.
And you still like him just the same? Like nothing changed?
Well, it made me love him more than ever. I don't think I've never had a marathon where I ended up liking someone less. That would be weird.
That would have been a good question, though. If you had, that would be interesting. Like, you thought from the beginning that you were going to be like really invested, and then it kind of like soured, but no.
I mean, I gained such an appreciation, a renewed appreciation for what this actor can do.
Right.
And when I found American Perfect, I mean, besides the fact that I felt like I was dreaming the whole thing and that it couldn't possibly exist, I just kept thinking the whole time about the fact that it came out the same year as Jackie Brown, or at least it would have come out the same year. And obviously that film overshadowed it. I mean, that was the huge, major career boost that he had been waiting for. And I love the fact that that happened, because I love that. That's my favorite Tarantino film, as we've talked about. So that's wonderful. But I do think that people are missing out by not knowing that this film exists, because I think it gives him the kind of vehicle that he almost never had, or at least not at that point in his career. Because after Jackie Brown, he basically just, he did a few more lead roles, but then he kind of settled into this supporting actor kind of territory where he played a lot of authority figures and some quirky things here and there, but I don't think he ever did anything else that was quite this off the wall. Because toward the end, he goes really bonkers. So I love that. I love that he had this moment. Never really again, but, fantastic.
Well, and he is kind of the lead, and it's also part of the reason why I think it's so noir-esque is because it's about chance. It has so much to
Yes.
do with like the emphasis on a coin toss and fate, and like sort of the inevitability of what's to come. It reminds me of No Country for Old Men too, in that way, where there's like this feeling of that even though things are determined in a random way, you also can't escape them.
Right, right.
Can't stop what's coming.
And even the fact that the director never really did anything else of note afterward. I mean, he did some things according to his website, like he's been a script doctor. I think it said he wrote something on Children of Men. So that's kind of interesting, but behind the scenes, he never again had a moment to show off as a screenwriter and director, really, with his name behind it. So yeah, like this element of chance, how could he have known that this movie that got to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival would be the last moment? That'd be it. And also the fact that he was, I don't think he was married, but his partner was Amanda Plummer at the time. So that was also a big part of why they worked, why they wanted to do this together, I assume. And so the fact that, well, they broke up shortly afterward. So who knew? Who knew that would happen?
Well, and she's in Pulp Fiction, right?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Right. I was going to say she's the one that's in the diner with Tim Roth.
Yes.
Now
we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, and then we've got Forrester and Jackie Brown, which is also Tarantino, Jetta.
Yes. I mean, it's an amazing cast, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, like, just as a weird side note, the fact that Chris Sarandon got to act in this with his wife, Joanna Gleason, who plays the other woman in the restaurant who's coming on real strong to Robert Forster.
That's right.
And I really love when actors who are married get to work together. I think that's cool. And it was the same year that Joanna Gleason played Mark Wahlberg's mother in Boogie Nights. So, there you go. The one who's always telling you, you're not going to amount to anything. So...
I haven't seen Boogie Nights in forever. I just saw somebody's review of There Will Be Blood, and they were ranking PTA, and I was like, man, PTA is one of those where you watch all of his movies at a certain time of your life, and then since he doesn't make movies very often, you just kind of forget about him. I mean, he's like a cinephile obsession, but then you also do sort of not think about him a lot.
I mean, I think a lot about the fact that I saw There Will Be Blood when I was 15 and I was obsessed with it.
Were you?
But that was kind of it. That was like the one moment in my life where I was obsessed with one of his movies. I've seen others and I don't know. That movie caused a Daniel Day-Lewis obsession. So
I was about to say it has to be the actor. It has to be.
For sure.
Okay.
Oh my God. I was so obsessed with The Crucible. Ugh.
Oh man.
No one should be obsessed with The Crucible. Oh my God.
Oh, Jetta, it's so
horrible
sad. Yeah.
I mean, I can't explain it. I would not suggest being obsessed with that story in any way, shape, or form.
No, I watched that when I was young as well, and I don't know what it is, but that's one of those movies where I watched it a lot. I felt like I related to Winona Ryder's character. Weirdly,
it's easy to feel that way when you're a young woman, for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, there are always movies where you feel like you know what that person has gone through, or you can at least empathize. Even if you can't imagine yourself going through it, you're like, well, I could get there. Like I could kind of see, but that story so awful. And then you think about There Will Be Blood, and it's like, why was I into these movies? I mean, it's not that they're not. I mean, There Will Be Blood is a great movie, but also I have not had any interest in seeing it again since then. Just once.
It's just that's enough. It's fantastic, but it is just that's sort of one and done. I felt the same way with Phantom Thread, where I was like, I am done with this.
I think it's also the theatrical experience. You have that feeling in the theater, and it's so epic. But then the idea of seeing it at home, would I really want to do that? That sounds so disappointing.
Especially when you have so many movies to watch, Jetta. How many are on your watch list right now? I'm afraid to ask.
I definitely mentioned this to a few people recently, and I'm sure I think it's over 26,000.
Oh my
And that's
gosh.
not counting the IMDb. I have a separate watch list, which I'm sure, mirrors a lot of that, but yeah,
Okay, but do
a
you
lot.
have a priority watch list that's separate from your like actual watch list?
I mean, I have my women editors list. I have a lot of things that I look at too, because I want to
But
prioritize certain films, but then everything else is just like fair game.
okay, but like if you comment on someone's post and you say, "Okay, I'm going to bump this up like this just got higher up the list for me." What does that mean?
Well, it's
Where are
mental.
you putting that? Oh,
It's
okay.
it's it's usually it's just something I'll keep in mind. Like when someone says that and I feel that way, I'll remember
Right.
that. And a lot of
Okay.
times, there have been a ton of times lately where someone recommended something to me, and I was like, "I'll watch that tonight." Like that's it. Like that's all I needed to hear.
That has happened
So
to me before too. Strange.
it's I'm sure there are times when I actually literally write it down, but almost never. It's really just that it's going to stick in my mind because now someone has made that film sound so incredible or so terrible. That has happened too. There are times when people say this is one of the worst movies I've seen recently, and of course, then I feel like I need to know that for myself.
Right.
So yeah, works
Uh
both ways.
I feel like it's also there are some times where the review is so excellent that you just watch it immediately too. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of special when that happens, I feel like. Like when I even though you didn't love it at all, like you liked it but you didn't love it. When you posted about Surviving Desire, I watched it like an hour later.
Right, that's
So
right.
there's just certain things that hit you. I think that's what Letterbox is so helpful for.
Yeah.
Is like, I had just seen One Heartly Trust,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw this and I was like, I messaged you and was like, how do I get this? And then you sent me the link and then I watched it. So it's
Yeah.
just weird. And then some movies have been sitting on my watch list for literally years and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I'll ever see them.
Probably never. I'll never see it. You know, I it'll be a fraction, a tiny fraction, because I keep adding things every day. I mean, every
Oh
single day
man.
that I read a review that is whatever it is so compelling, I'll add it. I mean, it's not like I'm going to read it and just pass by. So
Right.
it's impossible. There's no way. But that's exciting. That's the challenge, and that's what makes always finding something new so fantastic because I always want to feel like I'm discovering something new. Although I do
Agreed.
rewatch a lot of things, so of course I'm contradicting myself.
Well,
So,
and for American Perfect, it's a little bit easier to recommend immediately because it's available on YouTube. So
right.
you can literally, for both the films that Jetta picked, I can even post them when we post the reviews. Like they're
Sure.
so easily accessible and they're actually decent
Yeah.
quality. So you don't even have to find them. You don't have to rent them. That's the nice thing about this is like you don't even have to find them streaming. They're just available.
I didn't want you to have to buy some expensive disc somewhere, so
I know.
easier.
And I have done that before.
I know, and that is so
Mm,
commendable, but I figured I'll make
yeah.
it easy. Real
Thank
easy.
you. Okay. So the first one is American Perfect, emphasis on Forster.
Mm-hmm. And the
And
K that
then
nobody ever explains. No one knows why it's perfect with a K.
I have no idea
Mystery.
except that the word perfect being messed up is
I
sort of
know.
symbolic.
I know.
Okay.
But also consider the
But
fact that the end credits are backwards. So everything's crazy.
mm, everything's a little off. Okay, so for the second one it is what Jedi recommended that I see a year ago, Captives, directed by Angela Pope from 1994. It is very much to me feels like it is directed by a female.
Mm-hmm.
And it is starring Julia Ormond and Tim Roth. Jetta set it up as being about a dentist in a prison, but tell us a little bit more about it, Jetta, and then why you love it so much,
It
because I do too.
was part of a wonderful trip I took through Tim Roth's filmography, of course.
Mm,
And I don't remember how I heard about it, except again, I assume I must have looked at his IMDb and found it and was like, oh, what's that? Never heard of it. So I definitely bought the DVD at some point. And it just really spoke to me because, on the one hand, yes, it is about this not exactly erotic thriller, but
yeah.
erotic ish drama about a woman who has been recently divorced and finds herself falling for an inmate at a London penitentiary. So there is this intrigue. It's so taboo. They really shouldn't be doing this, but of course they want to because who's stopping them? Um, it was incredibly entertaining, as I think most people Well, no, that's not true. There are a lot of people on Letterboxd who think it's stupid, but I
Get
found
out
it
of here.
so riveting. But
Mm,
it also had this emotional content. A lot of people you'll find when you look for reviews are just like the sex scene. That's the thing people want to watch it for. That's what they scrub through the YouTube video for. But it's the bond that those characters form when they fall for one another. Even in the sex scene. I mean, that's the most interesting part to me about that scene, the way that they embrace, the way that they
I agree.
just want to connect. So it's not just that it's a kind of sexy, exciting story about a prison dentist, because of course she's a fantastic prison dentist, but it is this story about people who maybe thought that they wouldn't find love again. And they find it in this totally unexpected place. They aren't sure if it's going to last. They're not sure if someone's going to find out and ruin everything. Are they breaking the law? I don't think they're technically breaking the law, but
I don't think they are
um,
either.
it's
It
just
would
such a
just be
forbidden
frowned
thing.
upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's such uncertainty as to what he's really done to be in jail, because she doesn't know and she doesn't want to look in the records at first, but then she wants to look in the records. And so there's this incredible push pull. And it's true that the film does sort of like devolve toward more melodrama thriller. It gets into this whole, not hostage, but it has to do with a gun and, you know, guys on the outside who want to do criminal things, who want to reel her into this. It's hard to explain, and a lot of people don't like it. And Mark Strong is very sinister, of course,
As always.
but it works for me. I feel like no matter what, I'm totally invested in what's happening. And that's really the most important thing. And even though when the film came out, because I think it came out in 1996 in the US, so who knows what the
Okay.
delay was about, um, a lot of people didn't respond to it. It got mixed. If you look at the Wikipedia, it says mixed response. Um, and I think people just didn't get the combination of things. They didn't maybe identify with Julia Ormond's character. They couldn't sympathize with wanting to fall in love with someone who's behind bars, because you know you have to have empathy for that, and you know you have to be willing to be on the roller coaster ride for the ending. I mean, it is so over the top, and I think it works.
Yeah, but I think that
Well, not
I
like
think that
over the top. It's
I was about to say
mm,
the progression makes sense though, Jetta. They
yeah,
set
yeah,
it up in such a way. Here's the thing for me, okay?
uh huh,
The reason I bought into it is because they set up Julia Ormond's character as someone who you could imagine doing these things because of the circumstance that she finds herself in.
yeah,
She's very salty about her recent divorce,
right,
and the way in which it happens is very key to her connection with him ultimately.
yeah,
But then also there's this whole trope, and I talked to Jetta about this, how, you know, in pulpy romance novels, there's always like the good girl or the educated girl who likes the bad boy,
sure,
who's
sure,
attracted to danger. So that's at play there, but they do feel like real people. And when
mm-hmm.
they first see each other, you were like, oh my gosh,
Electric, the
yes,
chemistry, yeah,
how could anyone resist this? Like,
yeah,
logical or not,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
you couldn't. Give me a break.
It's you totally understand why these two characters who have both had experiences with infidelity, one much more
Mm.
extreme than the other, but you understand how they feel a little broken. They feel like this is a second chance they never expected, and it's just amazing to see how they're willing to go for it. They're willing to just, you know, set aside societal expectations, assumptions, concerns, and they just go for it. Not without some pushback, not without some yelling and crying, but they do it and they go for it. And I think that's it's an unusual thing to see a film that doesn't feel exploitative in the way that it does that. It
And I
doesn't feel
love
cheap.
how she has like a best friend in the movie, and I love
Mm-hmm.
how non-judgmental the friend is.
Yeah.
This comes up a lot. That's why I thought of In the Cut to compare it to
Yes.
that,
Yes.
because Jennifer Jason Lee is very non-judgmental to Meg Ryan's character.
Right.
I just
Right.
always like when the female friend isn't bitchy.
Yeah. She's
Who,
honest. She's
yeah,
honest, but she's
she's like,
not
oh,
being mean.
maybe, right, like maybe you shouldn't be doing this, but there's some sense of like, it's your life, you deserve to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that this guy makes you happy, Godspeed. And I
Yeah.
don't know why, but that really resonates with me, because a lot of times in rom-coms especially, the best friend is so annoying
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of like dissent about what the main character is doing.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that I really, really love is the idea that it starts and ends with communication. Because at the very beginning of the movie, she's in the bath and she doesn't want to answer the phone from her ex. She doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to talk. Nothing. And also, the ex is Peter Capaldi, who has the
Peter
most
Capaldi.
amazing hair. Love his hair.
Yeah, but also
Um,
she has the most amazing hair, Jetta.
that's true. Everyone in
Oh
this
my
movie,
gosh. Yeah.
all fantastic. Um,
Mm.
Also, I have to say, one of the reviews that I read, I think it wasn't a review from the '90s. I think it was from a few years ago. And someone was complaining about Tim Roth's terrible tattoos. They're his real tattoos.
Yeah, get out of here.
That's
You
his
don't know
own
what you're
taste.
talking about.
Sorry. Um,
Sorry.
but the idea that it starts with communication and ends with it, because at the end, without spoiling exactly what the nature of the phone call is, it's another phone call, and this time it's one where both parties are responsive. So it's just so good. It makes me feel so good to watch it and to feel like it was worth it. Like I cared about what happened to them, and I feel like the ending was justified and it's the right choice.
Did
And
you think that this was Tim Roth's best film? Like after you
oh,
saw all of them,
probably
or what?
sentimentally. I
Okay,
mean, how do you compare apples and oranges? This came out the same year as
true,
Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's
true.
like, how do you compare? But
Back to pulp.
one
Yeah,
thing I wanted to mention,
I'm ready.
I was able to convince a friend of mine for many years on Letterboxd, Katrina Barnett. I convinced her that she should watch this film right after I rewatched it in 2020. And
Mm.
the first time she watched it, because she watched it 3 times, 3.5 stars. Tim Roth hot, can get it. That's it, that's all. Good, okay.
Good.
Second
Okay,
time,
thorough.
second time, so that was November 2020. Second time was January 2021. You know what? On second thought, this is clearly a 5-star masterpiece. And then, a week
Okay.
later, still January
Yes.
2021, my friend suggested we watch this for her birthday, and I could think of no better way to celebrate 31 years on this earth than observing sexy dentistry. So I said, heck yes, even though I just saw it last week. So,
Well,
I mean, you know.
and Jetta, you have to give a shout out to the fact that the sexiest scene in this film is when her hands are in his mouth and she's
That's
just like
true.
inspecting his teeth.
That's true. Who knew that that could be so erotic and exciting
Oh my
in the
gosh.
dental chair? It is
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, everything about their chemistry, it's his eyes, the way that he gazes at her, the way that you feel the passion. And that's something that not every actor can do. Some people just look. It's just their eyes.
Mm.
Like it's not like a real intense stare. There's no intent behind it. With him, it feels so powerful. It's so potent. And you feel that connection between the two actors that you just can't always get, and it's fantastic. It's just so, there's no word to describe it, and it makes me so angry that Angela Pope only made one other movie after this, because I feel like the way that she could capture that, it's not just that the actors did it, there is something in the way that she was putting it together too. There has to be something about that whole set that just clicked.
Right.
And it's, I don't know, I don't think it was intentional that I picked two movies by directors who didn't really have lengthy careers.
Right.
Because she did some TV too, she did some documentaries, but it was really just two feature films. Although I will also say the second feature film has Martin Donovan, so
Oh.
doing a British accent, I think. I don't know how that
Is
goes,
he,
but
okay, I was going to say.
there's such talent there, and she really brings something special out in these two actors, and also Peter Capaldi and everyone else. So the idea that that couldn't translate to a lengthy career or whatever it was that happened afterward just makes me so sad.
Yeah, but you have to be grateful that it even happened in the beginning. Like
Yeah.
that's because sometimes, I was just thinking about this with The Elephant Man that I just watched, how David Lynch was saying if Mel Brooks hadn't supported him so much and produced it, he would have gotten no access to Anthony Hopkins and John Gielgud and Anne Bancroft and John Hurt. It's like somebody has to show up to sort of open the doors for young directors. Otherwise, yeah, it could just be a one and done. And that's not necessarily a reflection on their abilities. It's
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
they didn't meet the right person at the right time sometimes.
Right. But
So,
the fact that this all came together so fantastically, and the fact that the film just sort of sank without a trace. I don't know that
Mm.
you never really hear people talk about it unless they just happen to be really big fans of Tim Roth or Julia Ormond. So, I mean, I don't know, why is it so obscure? What is it about the film that, and even for people who've seen it, they don't necessarily love it. They think it's kind of cheesy.
I
So,
don't think it's cheesy, but I'm a sucker for, like, I love chemistry. Like,
mhm.
I will forgive a great amount of sins if the two leads, I feel like they really actually want to do something. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not just like they have good banter. Like, I feel like they want to,
It's
like,
real. Whatever it is, you can
yeah,
feel it. It's almost
right.
tangible.
It's almost primal.
Yeah.
Like that not even they can do something about it. It just
Mm,
exists.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that brings me to the thing that I said before recording I wanted to mention. I am
Yes.
hoping, and please, fingers crossed, this has to happen.
Oh my gosh.
I would like when you post this episode under
Okay.
captives for your review,
Yes.
I'd like this to be the first review you give a heart because you've never given a heart on
Oh,
Letterboxd.
Jetta.
I don't even care if you give it a star rating or whatever. I want you to give it a heart. It has to get your
Okay.
love.
I will. I will,
Okay.
Jetta, for you. We have discussed this somewhat at length. Why there are some people on Letterbox. This is such a niche thing to mention, but there are people on Letterbox who will only use a heart
Hmm.
and no rating.
Yeah.
There are people who will never use a heart at all and only a rating, and then there are people who inexplicably use a heart and then also a rating sometimes, which is you, right?
Well,
You're that category.
the funniest thing is when I reviewed Boom earlier today, I only gave it a heart because I didn't know what number to assign it. I had no idea because I
It's kind
loved
of
Elizabeth
difficult.
Taylor and I did not know what to grade it in any other way. But I enjoyed it. I knew I enjoyed it. So that's why I just got a heart. But what's wrong with a heart? What's wrong with saying that you loved something? It's not just that you're grading the execution, you're also expressing how much affection you have for it. So, and I know that you enjoyed Captives. I know that you loved it, or
I did love it.
yeah.
I did
So,
love it. To me, it's like the heart. To me, it just make like Lau. Our friend Lau does a heart only. Like a
mhm,
lot of times I mean, and most of the time he doesn't give a rating at all. So you only know if he likes something whether there's a heart there. That
right.
to me makes more sense. But I feel like the rating would convey whether or not I'd love something and or the writing itself. But yes, Jetta, that is not at all what I thought you were going to say, and that is very endearing. I will honor this request
I'll hold you to it.
for sure. And now that since she brought up Boom, so Boom exclamation point
Yes.
was the hidden gem that I picked from the book, directed by Joseph Losey,
Hmm.
whom I can't even tell that he directed it at all. There's nothing
Yeah.
distinctive in the direction to me. It was made in 1968, and which is a big year for film. Because I just watched The Graduate again,
Hmm.
and uh, it is crazy. It stars Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. They're on like a private island.
Yep.
They are I like not together. It's by Tennessee Williams. John Barry did the score.
Hmm.
She yells at servants and is trying to write, and he is the angel of death who has lovers who die every time they sleep with him. So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I
their
thought that it was
dogs.
very entertaining but strange. So,
Yeah. So you couldn't rate it because you felt like its technical merit was murky,
yeah, I mean, I think I
or
would need another. I'd need a second viewing to really judge what do I think about the writing? What do I think about, yeah, what
mm,
Joseph Losey was actually doing? Because, yeah,
no idea.
I'm not, he's not really a director who has a distinct imprint. I mean, he just did a lot of really, really good movies, but I can't think of a
Mm.
specific thing that makes a Joseph Losey movie.
Well, The
So,
Servant to me was so like the shots and the way that it's put together seems very distinctive, but I don't have a lot of I know AJ did a marathon of Losi, so he
right,
could
right.
probably say more.
Yeah.
I've only seen a couple, but to me, Boom has nothing about it that stands out directing wise.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly
Direction
wouldn't be
wise.
able to tell exactly who made it if I didn't know. And
Exactly.
the fact that it's Tennessee Williams, I mean, I think that some of his work is really, really engaging and some of it is just incredibly overrated. So I don't know where I fall with this particular one, maybe until I read it. Um, but
Mm.
I also loved Elizabeth Taylor so much because, again, I respond to those outsized, humongous, ridiculous performances. She's just yelling and coughing and
Oh my gosh.
preening and just, the giant headpiece. I mean, it's
And
so much.
smoking and just like pushing things off the cliff
Yes. Or
and
almost falling off
just
a cliff.
yeah. And she'll wake up in the middle of the night and start reciting what she wants her story to be and
Yeah.
has these visions. Like nothing about her is like on the DL.
Well, also, I think she and Richard Burton were apparently so drunk throughout that whole shoot. I mean, it's amazing that they got anything done. So
Oh, I see.
who knows what was really happening from day to day and how they got through it and who decided which lines would work. And I wonder if there was improv. I mean, how do I know? Maybe not. But
Crazy.
it's just, it feels so shapeless. But at the same time, I liked where it went toward the end. I felt like toward the end, it was almost like I wished it hadn't ended when it did because it was so crazy at the
Mm.
beginning and there was so much going on. But then toward the end, the story really came together. So,
And got more interesting.
yeah. And I actually felt like Richard Burton had something to do because there was a lot of time in that film where it kind of felt like he was just sort of there. And, who could
Mm.
really outact Liz? Like, she's everything. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe a second time and also listening to John Waters talk about it, I'm sure that would give me so much more appreciation because I love when he talks about movies that he's obsessed with. And his love for Boom is apparently tremendous.
It's unparalleled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I did like the ending where she was kind of like, nobody has ever refused to come be with me. And there's a little bit
Yeah.
of vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
and sort of meaning at the end, but then up until that point, actually, Kate Cate, whom I follow on Letterboxd and really like, she had a great review about it. But yeah, I mean, other than like the surfacey stuff that sort of goes on, and then Noel Coward sort of showing up randomly.
Well, he's
Uh,
fun. I like seeing him.
yeah.
That's not the issue. The issue is how do all these pieces fit together? I liked seeing
Mm,
him. I liked the costumes. I thought the cinematography was beautiful, but it doesn't. I can't figure out how it all works together, and it'll take
yeah.
another viewing to really feel fully invested in all of the camp glory because it's there. I feel like it is definitely there, and I can totally see why someone would watch Elizabeth Taylor and just be like obsessed with how over the top she is in every single moment. She just never
Yeah.
stops. It never stops, even in the
And
vulnerable moments.
this is fresh off of like Virginia Woolf was 1966.
Mm-hmm.
And she won the Oscar for that.
Yeah.
That was also based on a play. Richard Burton was in it with her.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there were a lot of, because that's my favorite film.
Right.
I know there's a lot of scenes in that where Burton was drunk, or like would show up to set drunk. So, and then they're drinking in both films,
right,
pretty much the entire time. So it's kind of like the 60s, man. Like you just kind of
it also speaks
have to.
though to her capacity for, it's like I think of elevated trash because she could
Mm,
give these performances that were so wild and so loud and so weird. Right before she did this, she did Reflections in a Golden Eye, and that's another
oh my
one.
gosh, with Brando, right?
Yeah, and that's one where I actually read the novel first and then saw the film. Also,
Right.
Robert Forster, his film debut. Um,
Okay, that's why
it's
Jetta's seen it.
yeah, another southern. Well, not another southern, but it's another big melodramatic. Um, the ending of
Mm-hmm.
that movie. I mean, you've seen that movie and the ending.
No, but I know what
Oh,
it's about. Yeah.
oh my god, the ending of Reflections in a Golden Eye is like the most bizarre thing anyone has ever filmed. The camera is
Oh
spinning
my
around. It's like,
gosh.
who would do this? Like, why? Um, so she could do that. She could give these performances even then. I mean, I think it also was true later in her career when she was doing more TV movies,
Mm,
more of a soapy kind of a thing. But
right.
even then, she had this ability to just go so big. Also in Butterfield 8, I feel like there's a lot of that too. And that's another film she won an Oscar for. So I just find it so fascinating. I mean, she's such a she's such a movie star, but there's such a trashy quality, but she just lives it. She breathes it. Like, she makes it feel possible. And I think if anyone else
And
tried to give the performance she gave in Boom, it would be so bad. But something about
no, and
her
she's got
wearing
like
all that and doing
the
all that.
diamonds. Well, and also having the diamonds, and it just seems like no matter how trashy she is, you do respect her.
Yeah.
And she's so beautiful too,
Yeah.
Jetta.
I mean, it's
I mean, she's just,
elevated. It's elevated. It's
yeah,
classy trash.
she's so breathtakingly beautiful, honestly. Like a lot of times where the camera would just stop and you're just looking at her face.
Her eyes.
She's just exquisite. Yeah. I mean,
Totally.
and there I have to say, after seeing like Night of the Iguana,
Okay.
there is an allure to the whole Burton Taylor thing. And the culture was very, very obsessed with them as a couple,
Sure.
that they couldn't go anywhere without paparazzi and stuff. So but there is something to that, and that's, I would say, the only reason to watch Boom is just to see them in the same place bickering.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I
As long as
mean,
that's your expectation, you'll be okay.
also, I've also seen the version of Taming of the Shrew they did right before Boom.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that being particularly wild or crazy. It's a pretty straightforward Shakespeare adaptation. So they
Right.
could dial it in. They could rein in the craziness and the rampant alcoholism. It didn't have to be so bold and weird. So I don't know. It's something about this film that was, the time, the place, the people. It just all came together to be unique, I guess is the only word for it.
A disaster piece.
Well, I don't know if I'd
that's
call
a
it a
word.
disaster piece because it's not a masterpiece yet. Maybe a
Oh, good
masterpiece
point.
next time. Maybe next time I see it, it'll be a disaster piece. Right now, it's just like capital W weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to be particular when you talk about these things with Jetta, because she has a whole lingo for things that are trashy. There's like levels. To me, there isn't, but for Jetta, you got to be precise.
I'm not precise. I mean, I'm winging it always.
So to wrap up, our films are American Perfect, 1997, Captives, 1994, which I heart, and Boom! Exclamation point by Joseph Losey. Jetta, it is an honor and thrill to be with you. I am about to meet Jetta this week.
Yes.
While we go to Tribeca in New York City.
Oh,
it will be.
I forgot something else.
Oh, go ahead.
I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry.
No,
bad
go.
habit. I brought memorabilia. I forgot that I did this.
Oh my gosh, how were you going to let me end the show without showing it?
I don't
know.
Go ahead. And I don't think
Silly goose.
I don't think I showed this in my From Beyond episode. So you'll forgive me if everyone sees this a second time, then whatever. I have
deal with it.
A Reanimator doll. A little Jeffrey Combs doll that he autographed.
Oh my gosh.
There's a line in the film, "Don't expect it to tango." So there you go.
Where did you get this, Jetta?
eBay. There you go.
Okay.
So
you know that's actually signed by him. It's not, you don't think it's just some rando?
I believe. Okay. I mean, I'm hoping. But
why would anyone do such a thing?
I don't know. But there's another great example of an actor who I became obsessed with and had to watch everything. So, with any of these people, it's amazing that you can learn so much. You're not just learning about how much you love the actor, you're learning more about the craft, you're learning more about the directors who made films. So it's all good. Like, it's all like a wonderful thing to do. So Jeffrey Combs, Forrester, Ross.
I really, before I die in this life, I'm going to have to marathon an actor. I don't know who I would choose because Jetta has done so many. And, but I think at some point I'll have to really contemplate. I think I might do a director though, instead of an actor. Does it need to be an actor though?
Why not just do an official James Spader retrospective? Go back to the very beginning.
Oh, Jetta.
Go back to Endless Love.
I'd have to watch so many bad movies. I hate to say.
But I'll watch some of them with you. That Alien Hunter movie, I'd love to watch that.
Oh my gosh. As long as I ended with Sex, Lives, and Videotape, then it would be okay.
Sure. But
yeah, that's what I have to end it with.
Even his garbage sounds so entertaining. I mean, he's made some real garbage, it's true, but even that. Oh, and Jack's Back. You never saw Jack's Back.
I know, that's one that we were going to collab that we'll have to eventually. Yeah, James Spader is my first cinematic crush, my love. uh, in addition to our beloved Crash Davis, who Kevin Costner plays in Bull Durham.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I could marathon either of them, just because I feel like it might threaten the depth of affection that I currently hold, which is sacred
Well,
and
not if you try
untouched.
watching Crash again and you break a disc again. So,
Oh my God, let's not go there.
because that'll happen again. You'll try watching it again. You'll really get your hopes up, and then disc broken.
It's possible that I was too young at the time to understand Cronenberg's Crash, because that
Um,
was a bit of a, like, that was pre-Letterboxd that I watched that film.
but it's also not that good a film, so I don't think you were really off base.
People either love that movie or hate it, though, Jet.
I know, but I don't love it, and so I think you were. I'm closer to
Mm,
your opinion of it than people who think it's, one of the all-time great masterpieces of the 90s. So I kind of get
yeah,
it. I would never heard a movie like that, but
I know.
I get it.
For all of you who don't know, what I was trying to watch, I was trying to get Crash, not the Haggis Crash, but the Cronenberg Crash, for years and years. I couldn't locate a copy. I finally did. The reason I was so excited about it was not just because of Spader, but because of Holly Hunter, because
Mm,
she is Jane in Broadcast News, which is in my top 10, which I love. So to see them in the same place was really exciting. And then I loathed the film, like abhorred, with an intense fury,
yeah,
that when it was over, I took the disc out of my DVD player and broke it in half and then walked it to the dumpster.
an
So
epic choice.
it
Amazing.
is the only time I've ever done such a thing in my life. It's irrational. It doesn't make any sense, but I just felt so betrayed. So that demands a revisit one of these days.
Yeah, I mean, I would rewatch it with you maybe after listening to the audiobook because I want to try and get some understanding. I want to have some
Oh, of the
context that
context.
just, gives me
Yeah.
some chance to like it more, but I don't think I would like it that much more, honestly. Uh,
There is a critic who wrote the Criterion booklet essay for it,
mm,
who loves the film so much. Jessica, I can't remember her last name right off the top of my head, but she wrote an
yeah.
excellent essay that really moved me when I read it, and I thought, okay, I was missing so many key themes, so much cultural background that would probably have informed the viewing better.
I mean, I always appreciate when someone can do that, even when I don't personally understand that point of view. If someone can
Mm-hmm.
write um, that forcefully about why they love a movie that much, I'm impressed. It makes me want to reconsider my stance, but it's just, will that actually happen? And I have serious doubts.
I
So,
know. I
I
have
would try
doubts.
again. I would try just for Spader, kind of also for Holly Hunter, and it has a good cast. It's not like it's not the worst movie ever made. I'll say that. It is definitely not the worst movie. Like, do you think it's
Jetta, what
worse?
is
Is it worse than Boxing
Jetta?
Helena?
What no. What is the
Uh,
worst movie ever made?
um, I feel like you've
Have I
asked
asked
me
you this
that, and I
before?
don't remember what I would
I
have
asked you
said.
what the grossest movie you ever watched, because it was that blood-sucking one.
Oh, yeah, but I love that movie, so that's not the
I
same
know.
thing.
Exactly.
Putting me on the
I, I'm
spot.
I think I'm putting you way too much on the spot here.
Can I say
And at
Marketa
this point, we're just
Lazarova
chatting.
again?
God, you're just gonna break Rob's heart. We're
I.
very sorry
It's
to
the
our
only thing I can
friends.
think of. What else
El
have I? What
Topo.
else have I really, really hated that I've written about in recent? Can you remember? Like, What did I give half a star to besides that? What did I really, really
To
hate?
me, the movies that you really like, where you won't even give a rating to them, it's usually because there's
Well,
some sort of political,
mm,
or like there's something that was wrong about the filmmaking or something. There's an aspect outside of it that really bothered you, like that movie
I mean
with David
Babylon. I
Caruso.
mean David Caruso. Which one was that?
Yes, Session 9,
Oh, okay, but that was like a whole
where
other
like you
thing.
were,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's what comes to mind when I'm like, Jetta hated something. There has to be like a real world reason.
But even that, I would say, was not like that was a watchable film that I had issues with for other reasons.
Okay. Okay.
There are times when I feel like a movie has some elements that I can still appreciate, but I just don't know how I feel altogether. Like Babylon or Blonde. there were still things that I liked about those films. It's just it was so complicated and so difficult, and
Mm,
I couldn't roll up all of my feelings into a number. I think that's really what I was getting at with how I wrote about those films. But
right.
yeah, like I could still see myself watching Babylon again. I could not see myself watching Marketa Lazarova again. Oh
Okay, we're gonna give that the award and see if our friends remain our friends.
God, everyone's gonna leave me. It's gonna be tragic.
Jetta, thank God I dropped out of that collab. That is
Oh,
the only collab that we've ever done that I decided not to
and you
do.
said you might. You said there was a chance that you might. So I lived in
No, not
hope I would
now.
not be the only one.
No, you are the only one, just like the counselor, all over again,
Oh,
Jet.
yeah, yeah. I would also see that again. There is a chance that a second time I would actually have some more appreciation for it. I don't think that that's a total no go.
Yeah,
So,
that's such a special film. We could talk to the end of time, so we're going to let you guys off the hook. But thank you, Jetta,
thank you.
for gracing us with your presence.
Mm.
And we'll see you guys at the movies.